Let me guess, you bought a pair of Ramones this year, didn't you? From the making an appearance on countless celebrities to seeing them all down your Instagram feed, you needed a pair of this classic silhouette in your closet, and hey, I don't blame you. If you didn't get you a pair of the staple shoe or anything from Rick Owens this year for that matter, no worries. Maybe after immersing yourself in the mystifying world of the renowned designer, it will inspire you to check out the hype behind the avant-garde legend and why he was crowned the Lord of Darkness. Born Richard Owens, Rick Owens grew up in a small conservative town in Porterville, California on November 18, 1962. As a little boy, he was very timid and pretty shy. As he was the only child, he only had his own company to express his creativity to. Born to a devoted Catholic mother who was a teacher and a father who was a social worker, Owens had very little freedom to showcase the different world that was playing out in his mind. Because of this, his mother, who sewed as well, opted out of teaching him, labeling it as a girls-only activity. And with his father being strict and confined by the uncompromising ways of the conformist town, he wasn't too fond of the idea of his son making women's dresses. He was not allowed to watch television up until the age of 16. Instead, his household focused on filling the quiet noise with sounds of classical music from the likes of Wagner, and entertainment came from literature from authors such as Carl Huysman and Aristotle. Unfortunately for Owens, school wasn't quite enjoyable either. He was surrounded by the cruelty of his peers. Being such a quiet and passive individual made him an easy target for bullies. Although Owens almost let this corrupt him, he found his power through art. He realized how much art was an escape from the hell that he was experiencing, and by junior high school, he knew what it would take for him to thrive. After graduation, Owens began attending Otis College of Art. There he began to learn more about himself and what he liked and disliked. He soon began to realize that he didn't think he had the intellectual capacity to study art. He felt as if there were certain characteristics of a painter that you had to have in order to be successful, and after 2 years, he dropped out. In later interviews, he reviews these ideas as inaccurate, and that maybe if he just applied himself more, that he would actually have grown to become great at it. Nonetheless, he continued his education for his love of fashion at the Los Angeles Trade Technical College, where he began to learn pattern making. After completing his courses, he began to work various jobs working in the garment industry in the Fast City. One company in particular would assign Owens to copy the pattern of known luxury brands such as Versace, creating knockoffs, and the garment would be returned shortly after. Rick made a good amount of money from doing this that allowed him to support himself, but after the company went bankrupt, he knew it was time to break out into the vast world on his own. From that point, it was showtime. In 1990, after looking for more pattern-making jobs, Rick's then boyfriend at the time introduced him to none other than Michelle Lamy, who was hiring for a position for her sportswear company. At the time, Lamy was living in Los Angeles and running a hidden elite cafe spot named Le Doux Cafe, where some of Hollywood's favorites used to meet and perform, such as Madonna, Joni Mitchell, and Sharon Stone. Paris-born native, Lamy left France in the 1970s, where she began to assimilate herself into the art and culture of Los Angeles. After these two souls came together, they instantly knew that they were the other half of each other. At age 25, Rick and Lamy began working together. Funny enough, Owens recalls being able not to understand Lamy at all for the first 2 years. The language barrier of Lamy speaking French and having a thick accent disrupted their ability to have efficient communication. However, despite the challenges, the relationship continued to thrive and sprouted into something romantic and long-lasting. Lamy recalls a drunk Rick Owens stumbling into her Paris room saying, "I have a crush on you and you have a crush on me." And the love between the two has not died out since. Sometimes though, Rick took his drinking to extremes. He reviews that he used to be a heavy drinker, often blacking out and not even remembering where he was. After feeling he was near death by consistently indulging in the poisonous concoction, Owens decided to quit and began focusing his attention on creating his brand. In 1994, he debuted his brand Rick Owens. Categorized by the label Decade Glamour, the fashion brand was a tasteful blended mix between the likes of grunge and high-quality luxury fabrics. Although Lamy hates being labeled as a muse, she was the perfect representation of Rick Owens as she began to wear pieces of his collection in her cafe and caught the attention of many wandering eyes wanting to know who the hottest new designer in LA was. Owens personally took the expansion of his brand in his own hands as well, marketing the collection to the most well-known boutiques in the area, looking for investors that would assist him in selling the collection. His first stop was in 1995 at the boutique Maxfield, a luxury-based avant-garde store that respectfully declined. I always found it so interesting of people like Rick Owens who get so many no's and later down the line they turn into these huge moguls dominating their industry. It should always remind you to never get discouraged and to not let anyone change your vision, because you will find someone that sees your world the way you do, and eventually he did. Charles Gale, owner of Charles Gale Boutique, agreed to stock his collection. In fact, the prominent luxury store has so much faith in him that they agreed to pay 50% of the collection up front. After selling out of their paid half, the name of Rick Owens started to pick up traction and gain buzz around the area. He was receiving all kinds of recognition from the fashion scene. By 1998, Rick Owens grew to unimaginable heights, being picked up by famed departments such as Barney's New York and others. Rick always said that he wanted his clothing to be accessible to every woman, and he accomplished just that. Following the success of this, a Rick Owens leather garment worked its way up on the back of Kate Moss for French Vogue in 2001 after moving his production to Italy. Seemingly by fate, this will be a major turning point in the obscure designer's career. Photographed by the late Corinne Day, the photograph graced the eyes of Anna Wintour and caught her attention, opening the floodgates for his designs to be recognized in mainstream fashion. For you guys who don't know, Anna Wintour is the editor-in-chief of American Vogue, an influential American magazine founded in 1892. This landed him a feature in Vogue a second time, but of course now for the US. Impressed and excited by his designs, Anna Wintour personally invited Owens out to Paris as she was looking to promote new designers. Here she will offer him a sponsorship of his first fashion show for New York Fashion Week. However, it was just one problem. Rick Owens hated fashion shows and said personally that he used to resent them. He did not like the fact that you couldn't purchase the clothes that were being presented down the runway, and made a promise that if he did consider the show, he would never make anything that anyone couldn't buy. He wanted to make sure that the integrity in Rick Owens' brand identity of a discreetness and quietness remained intact if he was going to go through with it. But after pondering on his age, which at the time he was 40, he decided to accept the sponsorship, and the garments of Rick Owens made his very first appearance on a runway in 2002. Gentle, sexy, and cozy were some of the words used to describe this fall-winter ready-to-wear collection. The collection featured designs full of grays, chalky whites, black, and taupe. Women love the way he fits the body, VP Ed Burstall raved. His love for draping showed heavily throughout the show. Paired with his famously known leather jackets and head wraps, the highlight of his tailoring did not go unnoticed. In addition to the beautiful layering of the pieces, it was amazing to see how well all of them worked together cohesively. One man in particular is responsible for this, however, and his name is Panos Giampanas. Cypriot-born stylist Giampanas is responsible for styling Rick Owens fashion shows now and then. Originally, it was going to be a summer-spring collection, but unfortunately, due to the tragic event of 9/11 terrorist attacks, the collection had to be pushed back. However, with sounds of Alice Cooper and Iggy Pop, Rick still managed to pull off a mesmerizing show. Rick Owens later went on to release the Autumn-Winter Dusty Later menswear collection featuring the famed dunks that were later reformed as the Geo baskets. Guys, I have to tell you, I am completely enamored with this shoe. From the design down to the very stitching, this sneaker is one of a kind and a must-have for your fashion starter kit. But Rick Owens originally designed the dunks because he felt the selection of athletic sneakers were quite boring and lacked a poetic sense to them. In his words, Rick wanted to create monster trucks for his feet, pulling inspiration from popular brands such as Nike, Adidas, and Puma. This resulted in a high-top shoe featuring a chunky sole, elongated tongue, premium leather, and a swoosh-like check on the side. Now, we all know Nike does not like anyone trying to rip off their design, even in the slightest manner. They cracked down on designers back then just as much as they do now. It is alleged that Nike sent over Rick a cease and desist letter over the similar design of the swoosh. Although he was flattered and swooned over the threat of a potential lawsuit, in order to avoid any more unnecessary backlash, Rick Owens went ahead and changed the design to an inlaid triangle, thus the Geo baskets were born. Rick would go on to make more impactful and statement footwear such as the Ramones and Island Dunk pull-ups. Furthermore, into the clothing, this will be another defining collection in Rick's career. Featuring elegant outwear of long tailored coats and his signature layering of pieces, it will prove to be another timeless capsule of designs. Rick Owens' passions doesn't just end with creating men and women's wear. He also had a keen liking for interior design. In July of 2005, Rick Owens set off to start his own furniture line with the assistance of Parisian dealer Philippe Josse. What I love so much about Rick Owens' furniture is how he was able to take his own niche aesthetic and translate it so well with putting together materials from scratch. With uses such as bone, resin, antlers, and concrete, Owens used it to create lighting, chairs, and sofas. Looking through his portfolio, it's no doubt that he has such a rich creative mind. For example, we can take a look at the black marble two-pronged bench created in 2012 to understand the depth within his genius. The collaboration of juxtaposed shapes and rigid structures made into an attractive statement piece that will stand out amongst other pieces within a home. Another design which was highlighted at the Museum of Contemporary Art, or MACA, was the daybed. The daybed is one of Rick's more famous designs and features plywood and petrified wood. It is 10 feet long, dark in color, topped with a shiny finish and a solid headboard that smoothly connects to the body of the bed. He went on to create more notable designs such as the human wax figure cushion that resides in his Milan flagship dressing room. Rick is said to have gotten a lot of inspiration from the works of Finnish Art Nouveau, Mayan temples, and crude and rigid architects such as Le Corbusier. He also highlights Michel Lamy as being the pivotal creative force that helps produce ideas that create these long-lasting perennial designs. By this time, Rick Owens was growing larger than ever. What makes Rick Owens so special is that he just wasn't dominating the geographical landscape of every country because he had the financial means to. The increasing demand in his clothing from the public catapulted the opening of all his flagship stores, first starting in Paris in 2006. He then went on to open stores in London, Milan, Hong Kong, Tokyo, Seoul, New York, Miami, and after a long 14 years away, back to Los Angeles. In 2007, Rick Owens was awarded the Cooper Hewitt National Design Award for Fashion Design. Receiving an award of this stature was no surprise to the innovative designer, and it was followed by many more. In addition, he received the Rule Breakers Award from the Fashion Group International, and in 2017, the CFDA Lifetime Achievement Award. Rick Owens is also an acclaimed author, being the writer of 3 books, Rick Owens Furniture, and the last one that is in French, and I'm sorry guys, I do not want to butcher it, and I can't pronounce it. Now, with all that being said, are you ready to go purchase your first piece or shoe from Rick Owens or what? As you can tell, he has had a pretty amazing life story. From how he grew up to getting his start in fashion to eventually taking off and becoming a household name, it is more than exhilarating to be a part of a culture that he managed to develop and stay consistent with throughout time. For the generation now and for those to come, his pieces will forever hold a special place within the fashion scene. This is what makes Rick Owens an iconic figure in fashion.